Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here, and here's another retro review. This is another coin-op conversion for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. And this time I'm picking Green Beret, or as it's known in the United States, Russian Attack. Which is, as you probably guessed, a play on words of Russian attack, bearing in mind that the game has a Cold War setting. As you can see, the original was a Konami release, and the Imagine software released this conversion. Now, what is quite interesting is that even though the main character you see on the screen there is clearly carrying a machine gun, at no point do you actually ever get to hold such a gun in the game. In fact, most of the time, the thing that the game is arguably most fondly remembered, well, maybe not necessarily fondly, but is known for is the fact you go in with little more than a knife at the best of times, although you can pick up limited use additional weapons along the way. So let's get this game going. Keyboard, up, down, left, right, stab, shoot. Happy? Yes, I am. Stab to start. So what you're trying to do is get through about 4 levels or so and rescue these captives. And no, quite a good use of colour here, considering that Spectrum has an attribute problem. That's a shame I didn't go on top of it on the upper level just then, because I couldn't jump and turn around in time for that one. Those enemies that look like that bounce towards you, they're the ones that jump kick you, and you actually cannot just duck underneath them. You'll die whether you're standing or duck down, so that does imply a bit of iffy hit. Slightly iffy hit detection in this, particularly when it comes to the jump kicking enemies, but apart from that, their hit detection is pretty good. Done with that flamethrower, because with the flamethrower you can actually take out those mines that you see flashing there. So it means I actually have to go up here. Note that only those enemies note that only the enemies that have the guns can climb up and down ladders. The other ones can't. So bear that in mind when you're playing. That is one good thing I like about this version. There's little to no doubt as to what kind of enemy you're up against, and that enemy is just there, which I just stabbed. The ones that look like that are the ones that give you the extra weapons, so keep an eye out for them. And unlike the Amstrad CPC version, which is met with some revulsion from the fans of the game due to its rather iffy and blocky graphics. I was a bit overwhelmed there. So as I was saying, the Amstrad CPC version met with some revulsion due to its rather poor background music and quite blocky graphics, and above all the very bad scrolling. This one, despite the use of colour and the Spectrum's well-known attribute problem, manages to get around to such issues really well. But one thing that isn't different from other versions is that the game's quite balls hard. you can't actually turn around in mid-air in this game, which is another thing you have to get used to. Quite often when you jump in a game, you can turn around, but not in this. What? I press. Another thing I noticed about this compared to the Amstrad CPC version is the well animated central sprite, whereas in that version it was 2-frame animation. Another thing I like about this version is they actually give some warning when the ones that carry guns give a warning when they're about to shoot, because they actually stop for a moment. And despite the Spectrum's monochrome, well, not necessarily monochrome per se, despite the Spectrum's attribute problems, you can still see the bullets when they come towards you, which is always a plus. In some other versions, you get absolutely no warning whatsoever. I'm actually trying to keep hold of the flamethrower, because the end level boss, such as it is actually just a whole run of enemies. Quite why anyone would go into behind enemy lines with just a knife is anyone's guess, but at least I guess it made the game a little bit different to the norm, whereas it would have been very hackneyed had it been going in with a gun. Now you can see why I kept the flamethrower. Level 2, the harbour. Instead of flamethrower, you actually get grenade launchers. And they come with 4 as standard. And I like the way that the those mines flash, because it means that they're easy to see when other. Oh, I couldn't do anything about that. I was stuck. Another thing that's good about this version is that you don't get sent. Oh, is that you don't get sent back to the start every time you die. Another criticism of some other versions, including the Amstrad CPC version, is that the rate at which you can stab is greatly reduced, which can be a big problem when you've got quite a lot of enemies close to one another. And you can even stab multiple enemies at the same time when they're right next to each other in this version, which is also a big plus. I should have killed that guy behind me first before doing that. Never mind. That wasn't ideal. I've not played the Commodore 64 version. I've heard that version's pretty good, but even if like this version is still pretty tough. nice use of colour and the way they managed to get it to scroll smoothly without the usual colour clash issues is very clever design. Playable, responsive controls. The background isn't so busy that you can't really see what's going on. Enemies are really consistent. When you look at an enemy, there's never any doubt as to what kind of enemy they are, whether or not they're ones that fire, whether or not they're one of the kind that go up and down ladders. Ah, I didn't jump early enough. I'm going to have to go up the ladder now. And another good thing about this version is that you don't get sent right back to the start of the level or the last checkpoint every time you die. You pretty much always go. You pretty much go back to where. That wasn't a good run. Let's try it again. So they put those shields of black around those white ladders down there, which is really good because it means that it can the horizontal scrolling can be smooth and not have colour clash. I mean, I actually saw some footage that someone uploaded of the Commodore C16 version of this, and if you thought anyone thought the Amstrad version was iffy, that version's even worse. I mean, when you're lying, you can't even stab while lying on the ground in that version. If you try that, you just stand up automatically. Oh, that wasn't very lucky, unfortunately. Oh, I think I picked up an extra. I like it when they suddenly decide to turn around and head off. I don't mind not having to deal with you, mate. Right, I'm keeping this flamethrower for as long as I possibly can. Ah, which wasn't very long. I should have just jumped straight up there. This is, while this is one of the best conversions out there, it's still a balls hard game. I mean, there's not really a gradual build up like a lot of people would have preferred. So I'm going to have to do this without a flamethrower this time. It can be done, but you just got to be choosing how you do it. Timing is crucial at that point when you don't have the flamethrower. I mean, in this version you don't get background music, but at least it's not absolutely deathly silent, so you do get some pretty nice sound effects for the stabbing. The sound effect of the flamethrower is pretty nice as well. That actually worked out quite well, that ladder being there, because it meant that the enemy went up the ladder and then back and down to try and get me, which gave me a bit more time to react to things. See, look, even though that bullet passed by that fairly complicated whatever that is in the background, I could still see it fairly clearly. And as we saw there, the extra weapons can help you get rid of mines. And even those can be seen clearly because of the way they were made to flash in this version. Damn, I didn't mean to do that. I knocked the firing of the flamethrower automatically. That guy just disappeared. Oh well, if he doesn't want to fight me, I'm not going to complain. Now, 8-bit Rachel actually did her own review of this not so long ago, and pointed out she'd stumbled upon a actually stumbled upon a little design flaw, which meant only 3 enemies could be on screen at once. That's definitely not a problem with the Spectrum version here. Look, I mean, look at that, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, got through that whole level without losing life. Hopefully I'll be able to show you the grenade launcher in this level. Hey. Oh, I thought I was just going to miss that. Never mind. At least I got a chance to show you the grenade launcher. And as you noticed just then, you can actually jump and grab a ladder mid-jump, which is also a very, very nice touch, and which makes the game more playable than it might otherwise have been. And this game's hard enough as it is. I'm glad I went on the top there, because that's one of those guys that... Let me down. Oh, here we go, the paratroopers. And I believe those, when they land, always turn into the jump kicking men. Oh yeah, I definitely want you, mate. Thank you. Little bit of colour clash on the end of that edge of that platform. Oh, groggy. Oh, God, nearly died there. Such a great game. Top marks for Imagine for this conversion. It's very nice. Oh, blew that timing completely. I think I'm getting to the end of the level, and if it, oh yeah, oh yeah, yes, you get them. You get to fight against dogs in this. Ooh, a bit of a corruption there. Oh. don't know what happened there. I guess there must be a slight emulation issue. That graphical corruption was supposed to be dogs running to the left, but something must have gone amiss with the emulation there. But anyway, so there we have it, Green Beret / Russian attack on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Absolutely fine conversion with great use of colour, which gets around the worst of the Spectrum's attribute problems. And it's not so detailed that you can't see what's going on, as you saw earlier. Even when one of those gun-toting enemies fired a bullet, you could still see it even when it passed by in front of a fairly complicated background. You can see the mines clearly. The controls are by and large very responsive. You can even stab multiple enemies at the same time with a single stab. It's got nice smooth scrolling, plays at a fast rate. As I said, its only real downside is that it's a bit difficult, even in the early stages. You don't really get the same kind of gradual build up that tends to be the norm, where you start off relatively easy to get you into the mood and get used to the controls, and in preparation for the harder stuff later. This one pretty much throws you in at the deep end. It's not the hardest game I've ever played, but it might be more than some people can bear. You can't just dash through it like Rambo on ecstasy, because you won't last 5 minutes if you do that. You do have to be somewhat tactical, such as trying to time your jumps, so that when you jump kick, when you deal with the jump kicking enemies, you can perhaps jump over some of the other enemies at the same time, which is helped by the fact that, as you've probably noticed, not all of the enemies run at the same speed. Some run slower than others, which also adds a little bit of a strategic element to an otherwise fairly straightforward game. So yes, I'm very impressed with this version. Sounds quite nice for a 48K Spectrum as well. So I'm going to give this 8 out of 10. Its difficulty level is pretty much the only real complaint I have about it. And that's the only thing that prevents me from giving it a 9. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the look at the Spectrum conversion of Green Beret / Russian attack. Texie88 out.